I'm Stephen Donnelly and I'm from the Northern Ireland Statistics and Research Agency. I'm currently working in Dell on labour market statistics, and I'm the Chief Statistician looking after the labour market stats and also statistics from further education colleges and the universities. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what to look for whenever you delve into labour market statistics, because it's a complicated area. The terminology is difficult. If you delve into the statistics, look at the labour force survey, but be careful about the definitions that you're looking at. For example, employees versus employment versus jobs. You will find statistics that will tell you that there's 722,000 employees in Northern Ireland. When you look at employment, it will tell you there are 822,000. And when you look at jobs, it will say that there's even more. So you have to be careful about what you're actually looking at whenever you're looking at labour market statistics. You can be looking at employees, people in employment, which is actually adds the self-employed to the employees. So you've got 722,000 employees, you have 100,000 people who are self-employed, add the two together and you get the workforce. So be careful about what you're looking at whenever you look at labour market stats. There's also conflicting research findings. Just last week there was an article by the CIPD, that's the Chartered Institute of Personnel Directors, and what they said was that most graduates who leave university don't actually get graduate jobs. About 3 days later, the Higher Education Statistics Authority published their statistics, and they said most graduates do get graduate jobs. So you have to look at the definition of what a graduate job is, and you have to look at the methodology. And what all this adds up to really is to be critical about the information that you're being given, and it also means to look out for the different definitions that people use. There's also employer views versus what the actual statistical evidence says. Now, an employer might say, and this has happened since the 1990s, Northern Ireland employees have always said there's a shortage of people who are computer programmers. And that has always been the case. Yet when I look at the statistics, or Dell statistics, what I see is that computer programmers who leave university have among the highest unemployment rates of all graduates. Now it's around about 10% or so, but the two don't square. Either there's high unemployment rates among computer scientists, that then means that the employers can actually recruit them, but the employers are saying it's difficult to recruit. And actually I think what we're looking at here is the fact that this is a very mobile type of occupation and people are always moving. So organisations will always have a shortage. So what you're looking at is a replacement rather than an actual shortage. So be careful about the views of employers versus what the actual statistics say. ONS is the Office for National Statistics. They do business surveys. And if you do a survey of business, that's very different from doing a survey of a person. And I'll give you one example that's in the news at the minute, and it's about 0 hours contracts. How many 0 hours contracts do we have? If you go to a business and say, how many people in your workplace have a 0 hours contract, they will give you a figure. If you go into somebody's home and interview them and say, are you on a 0 hours contract, you will get a figure. The two are completely different. People really don't understand what a 0 hours contract is, and there is no real legal definition of it. So there are two very different measures of how many people in Northern Ireland are in 0 hours contracts. So be alert, be critical, and question everything that you read. NISRA, Northern Ireland Stats and Research Agency, HESA, Dell, DETI, and the Commission for Employment and Skills, they're the main sources of information that you should go to. They're all gold standard as far as statistics are concerned. Now, we in Dell are trying to communicate our statistics more visually, and we're producing these infographics which tell you all the main statistics that you can get from further education colleges, or this is students enrolled at universities in Northern Ireland. So we're trying to get across this information. All this is on our website, all of it's published. Now, the future of labour market statistics is going to be joining all the statistics together. And what we've been doing is we've been looking at the census, and we've been linking census information to things like Revenue and Customs, Higher Education Statistics Authority, Dell, and the Department of Education. What that means is that you can follow somebody from school to college to university to work. And you can see whether that's happening at the same rate in deprived areas as in more affluent areas. So you've got you've got a geographic location of where the person was educated and where they actually work. And this is going to help us as well in monitoring people who migrate from Northern Ireland to universities in England and see whether they can come back or not. We do localised profiles of the labour market, and this is probably particularly interesting to Employment Service because it characterises the challenges that you're facing in a particular area. And one particular issue that we were looking at recently is labour market mobility. And we were looking at Strabane and Derry versus Lisburn. The chief executive of Derry City Council wrote to our minister and said that Derry was an economic wasteland. And I was asked to look at the statistics around that, the labour market statistics that characterise Derry and Strabane. And there's a statistic that measures the number of people, it's called the job density indicator, and it's the number of people it's the number of jobs in an area per 100 residents, and that's per 100 residents of working age. And when you look at Derry and Strabane, there may be around 70 jobs for every 100 residents, and if you look at Lisburn, there'll be about 65. So there's actually more jobs per 100 residents in Derry than there are in Lisburn. Yet Derry has an unemployment rate that is 2 to 3 times that of Lisburn. Another big difference that we came across was that the proportion of people in Derry with no qualifications is twice that it is in Lisburn. And Lisburn has twice the proportion of people with high level qualifications. So you start to see differences in the characteristics of the local labour market, and I'll say a little bit about that later. This is about population changes. Over the next 5 years or so, there's going to be 25,000 fewer 18 to 29-year-olds. And that is going to reduce the size of that population, but these people tend to be well qualified. So if you have a smaller proportion of them coming into the labour market, then you're going to be getting fewer people who are well qualified coming into the labour market. On the other hand, there are going to be 50,000 more people aged 55 and over. And people who are 55 and over tend to be less well qualified. So this is going to affect the skills mix in the workforce. We're combining big government surveys to try and improve the unemployment rate. And we're taking maybe 7 or 8 different flagship surveys from Israel. All of them ask about 15 questions that are very similar or exactly the same. And you combine them together, you get a much larger sample size, and you can work out what the youth unemployment rate is. Because at the minute it's about 20%, but that's plus or minus 5%, which is quite a big margin of error. And we're also mapping further education, higher education qualifications against commuting patterns. This is labour mobility. So this is Derry, and this is the population in Derry who live there and work there. And these two little bars, the blue bar is the number of people who go out, commute out of Derry in the mornings, and the other bar is the number that actually come in. And you can see that there are more people coming in than going out. So what actually happens in Derry is that during the working day, the population of workers in Derry actually expands. So there's competition for jobs there. The opposite happens in Lisburn. Here's the number of people that live and work in Lisburn. There's the number that go out, there's the number that come in. And you get, because Lisburn, an awful lot of people will commute to Belfast. These are the actual figures. So what you have is an inflow of about 7,700, an outflow of 5,000, and the net change is plus 2,500. So the population expands. And we know that they're coming in from Limavady and Strabane. And we know that some of them are commuting out to Belfast, Coleraine, and Omagh. So all this information is available. And this can be split by gender, it can be split by age, and it can be split by whether you take the bus or the train or the car. And this is Lisburn. So you can see some people are coming into Lisburn in the morning to work, but most people go to Belfast to commute. Lisburn's working population shrinks by nearly just over 11,000. So you get these very different commuting patterns depending on the time that you're in. Now this is the unemployment rate, and it's measured using the Labour Force Survey. And that's very important because it's an International Labour Organisation definition. And you can see that Northern Ireland and the UK unemployment rates have been very similar. But that's an international measure. If you look at the claimant count rate is very different. Northern Ireland has higher levels of people claiming unemployment benefit than in the rest of the UK. And that's important for the employment service because it means you've got higher demands because it's based on the claimant count rather than the ILO definition. But the ILO definition allows you to compare on a similar basis the international situation as regards unemployment. Now this is the proportion of the unemployed who are long-term unemployed, NI in the UK. So the UK has a long-term unemployment rate of around 30% or so. At the minute ours is around 60%. And the Minister is very concerned about that. But when we looked into it, we were saying, well, why does Northern Ireland have such a high rate of long-term unemployed? And it actually turned out that the reason for that, one of the reasons for that, was that a lot of people who were short-term unemployed were leaving the claimant count. So if you get a lot of people leaving the claimant count, then the ones that are left make up a bigger proportion of the claimant count. So their numbers don't actually have to increase. But what's happening here is that we have an apparent increase in the long-term unemployed, but it's in the proportion. And